This is the Zach Ansberry Show.
Touched on, VR, virtual reality, and AI. Is that how you kind of, and I know you seem to be a bit skeptical, but is that how you feel marketing is heading? Or what do you think are the big issues that'll face marketing, sort of the short term, so the next 1 or 2 years, or maybe the long term? What's going to be the big pressing issue for many marketers or the industry in the next sort of 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think, I don't think it's really necessarily related to those kinds of techniques. I mean, I think VR has its place, particularly in shopper research. Shopper research is difficult to conduct because you need retailer cooperation. People don't necessarily really want to be researched while they're shopping. They want to get in and out of the store. If they know they're being observed, this is what I call sort of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle that you have with watching shoppers is as soon as they know they're being watched, you've affected the measurement, right? And so you don't, so you're not really, they may decide that, I'm going to show I'm a smart shopper and I'm going to now look at the prices and I'm going to do this. And it's like, they're not really shopping anymore. They're putting on a show for you. So there's a lot of things that are claimed to be like System 1 research techniques that I'm skeptical about because the person is participating. They're a participant. I mean, you really need to observe them in some way without them knowing they're being observed in order to not have an impact on their behavior, in my opinion. But potentially VR, shopping a virtual shelf, that might be something that you could use. But I really think the challenges that we're facing in marketing is just sort of we're undergoing a sort of a seismic shift in shopping, and in the sense that there's a lot of e-commerce coming in, and there's a lot of disruption going on. What's really interesting, though, is that it's not affecting all kinds of retailers in the same way. So like there are certain retailers that are thriving in spite of e-commerce. So TJ Maxx is a good example. It's a store where people go treasure hunting. It's got name brand stuffs. It's like excess inventory of name brand products. It's sold and you never know what's going to be in the store. And so you're going for the experience of being in that store and finding a nugget. It's like panning for gold or something. So there's some excitement about doing it. My wife loves it. And because she loves a bargain and she loves good stuff. And so she can find good stuff at a low price. And I mean, literally, she's decorated our homes from TJ Maxx. She has good taste and she finds this really good stuff and she's just like really proud of herself when she comes back. And so it meets a lot of things for her. Stores that don't have that or don't have that, they're the ones that are struggling. Costco's doing well. A lot of people say, well, it's because Costco's doing well in e-commerce. I'm not so sure. And so there's one of the challenges is how much do you take your organization and drive it towards e-commerce? There's a lot of products that people want to go into the store and touch and feel and buy. So like produce, meat, there's, sort of the fresh part of the store. I'm not so sure that a lot of people want a lot of delivery there. And I think whether you want delivery or not depends on things like where you live. And I don't think we've really figured this out. And I think that it's very easy. I think what I see as a trend overall, and this is not an indictment of SEJ or anybody, it's just what I've seen in my whole career. As soon as there's something new, people say, well, that's where the industry is going. We have to go there. And it's like, well, yes, you kind of do, but how far do you have to go, right? That doesn't not always get evaluated. And so, you might go too far in or farther in than you really need to go. And that can be inefficient for the company. But if you don't go, then you run the risk of being left behind. So it's a very dangerous time for retailers. So I think people will err on the side of going all in because it's easier to go all in and pull back than it is to than it is to play catch up. So I think the shifting universe. I think the other thing that we are dealing with a little bit is the millennials, at least in the U.S. The millennials have decided to delay having their lives compared to the boomers. Boomers got married young, they had kids young, they bought homes, and millennials are lagging in all of that by about 5 years or so compared to their parents, maybe 10. And so there's some interesting dynamics going on. They also went to the cities much more than the boomers did. And I think that, everyone thought, well, that's going to be the future. Everyone's going to live in the city. But I saw an article about 3 years ago that showed that from car purchasing, that millennials seem to be moving back to the suburbs. So I've been saying for a long time that at SEJ that this is temporary. The millennials are going to want to have the same life for their kids that their parents gave to them. And then when it's time for them to have families, they're going to move to the suburbs. And we're now seeing a lot of evidence in the home purchasing area that that's actually happening. So one of my predictions has actually come true, which I'm pretty happy about. But I think that, yes, millennials are in the cities more, but we should really expect them to go back to the suburbs. And, so are they going to continue to buy online to the extent they did when they lived in the cities? Maybe, maybe not. Once they're, out taking kids to soccer practice, it's pretty easy to stop at the grocery store on the way home rather than get it delivered. That remains to be seen. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. That's it's the ground is shifting, and understanding how to deal with that. I think for big packaged goods companies like ours, also, we're kind of we're all suffering a little bit from what I would call ankle biters. You have all these little small brands that might be sold e-com or sort of specialty that people are buying, and so it's actually been kind of hard to grow with bigger brands. Maybe there's a novelty to the new stuff, but there's just hard to get unit growth or organic growth out of a large established brand. And I think it's because there's just a lot of small brands coming in, and they're able to get some market share just because they get distribution in a few outlets. I don't know how long that's going to survive. I mean, I think the what the large brands need to do is continue to advertise and drive mental availability and relevance with consumers. But those are the kind of things that again, it's going to remain to be seen. Whether or not we're just going to have this sort of slow growth world in the packaged goods arena. And it's really something we've been facing now for probably about 3 or 4 years.